What a gift to have these little ones and to hear the little ones, right? And the little ones would all be present as the people of God would go up to Mount Zion on the hilltop there in Jerusalem to the temple for all the feasts and special occasions. And that's what we're looking at right now. Psalm 132. We're in the summer of the Psalms. We are near the end of our summer. We're going to go through August. And maybe we just go through October, so the weather's nice, but it's been nice and mild. We're on Psalm 132, and we'll go two more is the plan, Lord willing. So 133, it's a beautiful picture. 134, you can read ahead. I'm calling this Coming Home to the King, which as you look at it, you'll be like, well, there's some priestly elements, Jeff. It's not a very good title. Great. It's called Psalm 132. All right? But I want to ask you this question. What makes your justice meter or your justice-o-meter go off? Everyone has one of these. Everyone. When our second son, Justice, was born, and I would go to various places where they would make you muddy water or tea. I like coffee, but where they'd make it and they'd be like, I was like, go have a new baby. And his name is Justice. Doesn't matter what people's thoughts are about politics or gender or they love that name. Everyone loves that name. They're like, that's an incredible name, right? Because it is an incredible name, because it is an incredible truth. Justice, not the boy, though we hope so. God's justice is full of grace and truth. And we hope that one day we will get to experience the fullness of all the justice that needs to be brought out in this world, right? Can you think of an injustice? There's little ones like, that's not how you merge into traffic. Figure it out, right? Being slighted, being unrecognized, like, I thought I contributed to that, right? But there's big injustices, mostly ones that we cannot overcome, we can't do anything about, though we long for those things to be done. The other day I was driving home, and behind me was a police car. It was from the city, so I knew that they were lost because I live in the county. And but I was like, I was not speeding. I live on that road. I do not go fast. Okay. All right. Not too much. But where I approach, where we turn off, it's 30 miles an hour. And I have seen people going 70, 80 there. And I mean, it's quite fun, Dukes of Hazzard style, if you are going too fast, but that's not what we're looking for, right? It's got a little blind corner. And so he's right behind me, and I am just like, where's the cruise control? What am I doing, right? Why? Did I feel like I was speeding? No, I just wanted to do everything right. And I was rehearsing in my mind, not a defense, because I knew I wasn't breaking the law, but I was rehearsing in my mind, if I were pulled over, I would thank the officer and say, thank you for being out here. There's actually a lot of activity that happens out here. Do you mind if I describe some of it to you? Your presence is really helpful, right? I'm thinking that all the time. If I'm out running and I see a county sheriff out there, I wave them down. I was like, thank you for being out here. And they're like, what? I was like, most of the cars are either a Prius or Subaru or have no license plates or windows, right? So we need I'm just thinking through what makes for a safe world. What makes for a safe, so you can tell what makes my justice meter go off, right? Things that I don't have anything that I can do anything about. The people of God have left their homes, they have left all of their commitments, and they've made their way up to Jerusalem to worship God, right? And as they're going, they're thinking about all the things. They're thinking about being parents. They're thinking about their aging parents. They're thinking about their spouse. Why doesn't he ask me questions? Why doesn't she notice it? All these things, right? It's a space to breathe. It's partly why, as we come together, right, you might be stressed out as you come to church. Why? Because you have to get everyone together and let's go. And then you get here and you're like, oh. And it feels, hopefully, like coming home. Hopefully it feels calm. Hopefully it feels worshipful. Hopefully it feels like most things are in place, but like home, some things are out of place. And you're like, how come they didn't have enough toilet paper in here? Well, it's like being at home, right? Trying to work on that. Life in God's household, I've said this multiple times this summer. We as God's children, God's kids, obey from our acceptance, not for our acceptance. I believe that's a truth. I believe that's full of grace. But I believe it also applies to this psalm, and it'll explain it in a moment. All right, I'm going to read the first 6 verses. Let's go. Psalm 132, if you've got a paper Bible, on whatever page that's in, if you find in the Psalms, you just go to the middle of the Bible. You'll be about the teens or the 20s, and then just turn right, 132, real brief. This is the longest of our Psalms for this summer, so preacher, let's go here. All right. Lord, remember David and all that he suffered. He made a solemn promise to the Lord. He vowed to the mighty one of Israel, I will not go home. I will not let myself rest. I will not let my eyes sleep, nor close my eyelids in slumber, until I find a place to build a house for the Lord, a sanctuary for the mighty one of Israel. We heard that the ark was in Ephrathah. That's a nickname for Bethlehem. Then we found it in the distant countryside of Jaar. Dutch, you just follow me. Like if I might take over, but you just got it. Okay, you got it. Just imagine imagine it's like at home. I tell you to do something, and I start doing it. Instead, it's like at home. All right. Then we found it in the distant countryside of Jaar. We'll get into that. Like where's that place? Right. Verse 12, let's skip ahead. Verse 12. If your descendants obey the terms of my covenant and the laws that I teach them, then your royal line will continue forever and ever. There's that concept of king. All right. First point. Lord, will you remember your son? Will you remember your son? Specifically David. Now, this is remembering the vow, the promise, the commitment. I know we like the idea. We don't like modern vow. What are you talking about? I'm going to keep my options open here, right? No, the vow, the promise the Lord made. Not that I'm not going to die. I'm not even going to fall asleep until I find you a place that you can dwell. Now, the backstory of this comes from 2 Samuel 7, or retold in 1 Chronicles 17, which is fascinating. When you read those, you go, oh, the writers gave a little bit of different commentary in the two because there's so much to the story. But David's basically an old man, and he's like, I am rich, I am powerful, I have this whole huge family, I'm very successful. God, why do I dwell in this incredible home? Right? This mansion. But you dwell in a tent. You're still camping out at family camp. Come on inside. And so he purposes to build the Lord a house. He has all the materials. As being king, he can exact that, and people had given materials. He has the resources to go up in Lebanon and send those cedars down. The gold, all of it. He's thinking through, this is my legacy. My legacy is to build the house of the Lord. He goes to Nathan the prophet, and he goes, do everything that's in your heart. So that night, all of them fall asleep, and one of them gets woken up or told, you spoke too soon. That is not what David is supposed to do. So Nathan in the morning goes over breakfast. I'm summarizing, paraphrasing here. And it's like, I spoke too soon. You're not supposed to build a house for the Lord. Your son will, and that this is the word of the Lord. And the word of the Lord has basically two aspects of it. Your son will build a house, and specifically his son Solomon. And if you know the backstory of how Solomon became his son, you know that that's full of grace. Okay. but I will build you a house. The house of David isn't the dwelling place. It isn't a specific address. It is the dynasty. It is the kingship. It is the throne in Israel, and then one day over the whole world. And it's like, wow, this is a little bit better. Rather than me giving this gift to you, you are giving this. And he talks about how when your son, when he disobeys, I will discipline him. And when he honors me, I will bless him. And it is an unconditional promise. Those vows we made as parents, the preamble, Abby's like, they're going to break your heart more than once. Yeah. And God's son is going to, not the son, we'll get to him, but all of the sons, like David and Solomon, are going to break his heart. So if we go to 1 Chronicles 22, fast forward, it's actually happening. They've worked through the permits. They've worked through the paperwork. Then David said, this will be the location for the temple of the Lord and the place of the altar for Israel's burnt offerings. So David gave orders to call together the foreigners living in Israel, and he assigned them the task of preparing finished stone for the building of the temple of God. And David provided large amounts of iron for the nails that would be needed for the doors and the gates, for the clamps. Can you imagine? Like, you can't just throw the nails. Like, no, you got to keep that fastener. And he gave more bronze than could be weighed. And he provided innumerable cedar logs, for the men of Tyre and Sidon up in the north had brought vast amounts of cedar to David. And David said, my son Solomon is still young and inexperienced, and since the temple is to be built for the Lord must be a magnificent structure, famous and glorious throughout the whole world, I will begin making preparations for it now. Son, this is your task, but I'll be the general manager just to kind of get you going. So David collected vast amounts of building materials before his death. And then David sent for his son Solomon and instructed him to build a temple for the Lord and the God of Israel. My son, I wanted to build a temple to honor the name of the Lord my God. David did many things, great things in his life. He did a few really bad ones. But this was the great thing that he wanted to do. This was his life's ambition. He wasn't actually a very good father. Definitely wasn't a good husband. He was a good king. He's described by God as a man after his own heart, which shows us both truth and grace. But the one thing he wanted to do was this. Why? To honor the name of the Lord my God, David told him. But the Lord said to me, you have killed many men in the battles you have fought, and since you have shed so much blood in my sight, you will not be the one to build a temple to honor my name. But you will have a son, and you will be a man of peace. Who will be a man of peace? He's not going to be in all these battles. And I will give him peace with his enemies in all the surrounding lands, and his name will be Solomon, and I will give peace and quiet to Israel during his reign. There's something about a father knowing that his son, his kids, are going to have it better than he does. Right? I mean, that's kind of what parents do and grandparents do, right? That's actually part of why they tell the story. You know, when you get older, you're not going to want to have done this thing you're doing right now. Which doesn't sound very motivating. You're like, if you wanted to motivate me to do the opposite, that's what you did. But it's the reflecting, looking back of like, I want more for you than I actually want for myself. Now, my son, may the Lord be with you and give you success as you follow his directions in building the temple of the Lord your God. And may the Lord give you wisdom and understanding that you may obey the law of the Lord your God as you rule over Israel. For you will be successful if you carefully obey the decrees and regulations that the Lord gave to Israel through Moses. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or lose heart. I have worked hard to provide materials for the building of the temple of the Lord. Nearly 4,000 tons of gold, 40,000 tons of silver, and so much iron and bronze that it cannot be weighed. He's not bragging if it's true, okay? And I have also gathered timber and stone for the walls, though you may need to add more. Now, the only exaggeration is David didn't actually do all that stuff, right? There were other people, but he got the credit here. Then David ordered all the leaders of Israel to assist Solomon in this project. And then the Lord your God is with you, he declared. He has given you peace with the surrounding nations. He has handed them over to you, and they are now subject to the Lord and his people. Why tell all this story? Why not just paraphrase? Well, if I just paraphrase it, I'm going to insert all kinds of needless details. Here's the main detail. Then David ordered all the leaders of Israel to assist Solomon in his project. In this project, the Lord your God is with you, he declared. He has given you peace with the surrounding nations. He has handed them over to me. I know, it's amazing. He can stay. He can stay. Seriously. I have only a problem with people who fall asleep during the sermon. Everything else, let's go. And they are now subject to the Lord and his people. It's totally serious. Now seek the Lord your God with all your heart. So the promises made to Solomon, and the promises, though real, promises made, when the promises are kept by God, they involve us. They involve us. The chores don't get done unless they involve us, right? Now seek the Lord your God with all your heart and soul. Build the sanctuary of the Lord God so that you can bring the ark of the Lord's covenant, key phrase, the ark of the Lord's covenant and the holy vessels of God into the temple built to honor the Lord's name. He's described something that we do not have in this room in the way that it's described. The ark of the Lord's covenant. Augustine of Hippo, writing about this psalm, reflected in Latin, translated for us, let no one presume to think he fulfilled by his own strength what he has vowed. All right? David knew that. He's like, God, let me go all the way to the breaking of the ground. I didn't get to see it fulfilled. But there's something missing as they go to build the temple or even find the land for the temple. There's something missing. And they go on a little treasure hunt. Right? It's like a little national treasure. And they're trying to find what's written on the back of the Declaration of Independence or what's in here or whatever, the shows and the movies, whatever. But they're trying to find, where is the Ark of the Covenant? And there were stories where the ark was supposed to be brought back, or it was supposed to be brought back, and there was this time that they brought it back. But instead of doing it the way that the Lord said, which the Levites would hold poles and the Ark of the Covenant would be on it, and you do it in a specific procession, they're like, let's just put it on a cart, hook it up to the donkeys. That will be better. Like professional movers. That's what they do, right? And so as the procession goes, it started to fall. And Uzziah reached down to catch it. I don't want, I'd rather it land on me. And he was killed dead right then. And it's oh. Because you don't get to choose how you worship God. He tells you how to worship him. And they had disobeyed. And so David finally, he's super discouraged. And he's like, fine, put it away. And it goes to the house of Obed-Edom. There's a whole story with the Philistines, and they got tumors, and it came back. And it's amazing. You read the Bible, and they ask the kids, and they're like, this story was insane. This is crazy. We learned this in church. You're like, tell me about it. And Obed-Edom is blessed. And apparently his place or his area is nicknamed Jaar. They're like, we forgot. It's over there. He's doing so well because the presence of God is in his home. And so they finally come, and they bring it in. And as they're bringing it in to the place, David is just have a sacrifice every few paces. This is going to be a bloody mess. We are going to over-worship God, how he says, right? And then he's dancing, and his wife, Michal, is like, what's your deal? You're too exuberant. And he's like, I will become more undignified than this. All of that story is happening around this. Behold, we have heard of it in Ephrathah, and we found it in the fields of Jaar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. And this is where it gets a little bit technical, but just stick with me. I'm going to try to breeze through this for the sake of all of us, to not lose it. Let us go to his dwelling place. In the ancient world, as in modern, people think that like this God dwells in this place and he does this thing. And if you go do and worship him in this way, he'll bless your crops or he'll bless your fertility. And that's kind of the main two things. Or he'll give you health or help you with your problems, right? He has power. Those specific gods have power, supposedly. And this God, who created heaven and earth, has chosen a specific people, and he says, I don't actually dwell in a temple or a tent made by human hands, except I choose to dwell with you when I tell you how to worship in this one place, the Ark of the Covenant. And this beautiful box that they had made, we don't have it in this room. In fact, nobody knows where it is. And on the top of it are these cherubim, which are like angel-like creatures, and they're facing one another. And the mercy seat is the lid right there, and that, through the literature of the Old Testament, is called God's footstool. Like he sits up there on his throne. This isn't a throne, right? And it's just it says ottoman, right? Right? But nobody gets to see it. The priest, high priest, goes in the temple once a year on the Day of Atonement and just like tied a rope around him. They like figured that out because a few people died. They're like, how do we get him out, right? So they tie a rope. Like if you have sin in your heart, you can't approach. And a lot of this is written in the book of Hebrews, specifically chapters 9 and 10, even to chapter 12. All of these warnings about worshiping God and not just being lax about it. But specifically, because there's a fulfillment of that. There's a reason why we don't have the Ark of the Covenant now, and it's all right. The Ark of the Covenant, the lid, the mercy seat, is the place of atonement. It's the place of at-one-ment. It's the place where heaven and earth meet, and truth is declared, but grace is also shared. It's the place where the judge of all the earth, the king, puts his foot, and he is rested. The Ark of the Covenant describes his presence, where wherever he is, everyone is blessed, but also things are set right and in order. Things move from chaos to order wherever God is. And again, we were kicked out of the Garden of Eden because of our disobedience, and we can't just say, well, we'll go back when it's time for dinner. Look, we can't get back to God unless he comes to us, and so he has. And the nation of Israel, and the promises made to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, their wives, their kids, all the way through, down through David, and re-upped with him specifically, my son, your son, shall always sit on that throne. We don't have to go be looking for Solomon now. There is a son of David who has come. And he has actually fulfilled all the things described about the Ark of the Covenant, the temple, the things mentioned on Mount Zion. You're like, these are religious terms. And it's like, well, they're describing God. So verse 7, let us go to the sanctuary of the Lord. Let us worship at the footstool of his throne. Let's stop everything we're doing and let's just go and be with him. For the Lord has chosen Jerusalem. He has desired it for his home. That is the Lord's dwelling place. That is the place where he chose to live. With his people, for his people. And then, psalmist, whether this is David writing this or someone writing it like about him, arise, O Lord, and go to your resting place. And then the Lord quotes, this is my resting place forever. So they have found the Ark of the Covenant. They have found the place where they're going to build the temple. And this is God's dwelling place. He is finally home. In God's presence, we are changed into the image of Christ, and yet we don't have to go to a certain place to do that. Now, when you hear that, you're like, oh, I didn't have to be here? Let me restate it. You do not have to go to a geospatial place to do that. But you do actually have to come to a place that is a person to do that, to have that happen to you. Jesus the Christ, has replaced the Ark of the Covenant because he is the Ark of the Covenant. Jesus Christ has replaced the temple. He actually said that. He's like, tear down this temple, and in 3 days I'll rebuild it. And they're like, you're going to tear down the temple? He's like, you guys don't get it. My body, and the gospel writer's like, he was speaking of his body. The whole point of the Ark of the Covenant, the whole point of the Promised Land, the whole point of a son of David, the whole point of worshiping God in spirit and truth, the whole point of the temple is to point to God who has come to dwell with his people. And that is the promise given all throughout Scripture, God's presence. And so one of the reasons why we come together, though I like the style of this room, and I think we all look good, and some of you dressed up even more than normal, which is awesome. I love it, right? Is that we reflect the image of Christ to one another. And we're learned to, Blair said that, garage time, like maintenance, like, okay, Lord, what are you settling in my heart? Why am I maybe averse to your presence? Why I'd rather be busy rather than contemplative? Or how come I'm frustrated in your presence? Paul says that this happens by the Spirit of God. He says, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, with unveiled face, he's mentioning the reason why some people, they know the Old Testament. He was specifically mentioning Jewish people they know about the Messiah. They know all of this history. They can not only pass the test, like they could describe it to you in incredible ways, but they don't see. They could read it, but they don't see. They can say it, but it doesn't penetrate. He says, we all with unveiled face. There's not a barrier anymore to our not only understanding, but our peace in the midst of it. Beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. So one of the main reasons why we come together, or you come to God, or you read the Bible, or you pray, is so that you're changed by God. One of the men who was up here today with his kids, I remember him saying one time, he says, I have become a far better Christian because I have become a parent. And that mentality serves him well. 4 kids, congrats. It's totally true. Because responsibility is thrust upon you, you have to turn to God rather than being like, well, I'm going to be the source of all the good in this, whoever, dependent's life in me or on me. It's like, God, you have to give me power. You have to give me wisdom. You have to show up. We're like, where's the Ark of the Covenant? Where is it? Let's get it here, right? And I love it because what it does is it makes us need God. Rather than pretending we don't, like, oh yeah, we've done that. Our church, we do child dedications. We would call them baby dedications, but they hadn't done one in so long. So it's just kind of preteen dedications, we would call them. Rather than being aloof about it, like we intensely going, what a gift. Now, all of this backstory, you're like, why don't we just read the psalm? Well, if you just read the psalm, you're like, it's about David making vows to God, and then you're like, okay, now we're here worshiping. And it's like, but if you read the Old Testament, you're like, he made a bunch of vows to God, and God was like, you're in your little boat in a bathtub on the whole world, and you think you're managing, you're circumnavigating this, but it's on the whole, it's my world. You have this small area that you're in charge of. And for him, it was the whole nation. For him, it was a whole dynasty. But he still could not do it. Right? Let no one presume to think he fulfilled by his own strength what he vowed. So in a moment, we're going to remind the Lord what we have committed to. In a moment, we're going to rehearse and come through in our minds like, Lord, yes, do it again in my heart. But God is more committed to your success in this than you are. John Calvin put it this way: the church is not limited to one place. Now that the glory of the Lord shines through all the earth, his presence is where Christ and his members are. And that's a weighty responsibility where we reflect God's care, his character. So we got to do the whole psalm. He says, who attends to the worship of God? Who attends to worship God? Verse 9, let your priests be clothed with righteousness, justice, and let your saints shout for joy. There are many things that they will do in exact ways as they come to worship. But the main thing is that they're clothed with righteousness and your saints shout for joy. And in both of those cases, it's because what God has done and who he is. I will abundantly bless her provisions. I will satisfy her poor with bread. Her priests I will clothe with salvation, and her saints will shout for joy. What's happening? As you attend to worship God and you give him your needs and you reflect on that with one another, God does it all. And then sometimes he gives you an Aaron or you an Aaron or you an Aaron and says, I want you to do this one thing. And you're like, I don't even, it doesn't seem like it's a lot. But without you doing that, it doesn't all work. How will God give bread to the poor? How's he going to do that? Loaves of bread. You know, God goes over to Dave's Killer Bread and just throws them out, you know? Is that what's going to, how is God going to meet the needs of the poor? Through his people. And he hasn't described what policies and how that all works or whatever. We can debate over that, but like he uses us. Big picture him, little picture, tasks, that's us. And then, verse 10, for the sake of your servant David, do not turn away the face of your anointed one. There's a time where after David came next leader and next leader and next leader, and you're like, these ones are no good. Almost all of them. But one time, there comes one, an anointed one, the word Messiah. He is King Jesus, the Christ. Not his last name, but his title. And here's the promise. We end the psalm with the promise. There I will make a horn to sprout for David. Speaking of legacy. And I have prepared a lamp for my anointed, light. His enemies I will clothe with shame, but on him his crown will shine. A better title for this psalm would be Promises Made and Promises Kept. But who makes the promises? King David tried, and God's like, sleep on it. I'm going to let you know. It's God's promises. But who keeps the promises? The Lord. How does he keep them? In part by enlisting and including us. Does it depend upon us? No. Are we involved? Yes. For all of God's promises have been fulfilled in Christ with a resounding yes, and through Christ, our amen which means yes, ascends to God for his glory. It is God who enables us, along with you, to stand firm for Christ. He has commissioned us, and he has identified us as his own by placing the Holy Spirit in our hearts as the first installment that guarantees everything he has promised us. We're going to go to the communion table. We're going to respond in song. We're going to respond in praying for one another. We have been seated and receiving, but now we are going to do a little bit of a giving. We do that in part by coming forward and giving of our offerings, our tithes in these boxes, the back, the two sides here. Also our prayer cards, like I love it when we pray over those things, but there might be something that like, I can't even describe this. Like, how do I even I can't even give you the backstory. And you go to a brother or sister and go, can you pray for me? Or we pause during this song and we go, Lord, who am I supposed to be a blessing to right now? Right? Promises made and promises kept. I have 3 questions for us. Is Jesus the place that I come to worship God? God has appointed that Jesus is the place that we come to worship God. Second one, first person as well. Am I being changed by Christ our King? I believe that he is seeking to change you. I believe through my own experience that if I resist that change, I just repeat that grade over and over and over, right? Because he is far more committed to my betterment and my growth than my comfort. That's how a good parent, a good father works. And then I'll ask you, just which of God's promises are you wrestling with? Maybe there's an area of disappointment. It might be a disappointment with another person. It might be a disappointment with God. And be like, I have a hard time coming to you. I want to invite up Blair and our team as they respond in song. She'll probably want her mic. And I want to invite us up to the communion table. It's a simple routine. It's a simple habit. It's a simple miniature little ceremony, if you will, where we come and we grab that bread and we grab that cup of juice and we just sit in God's presence and remember the words of Jesus.